I'm so excited. So, I wasn't sure whether or not we were putting our topic on a title slide, but mine is why we need to stop using religion as a weapon and start using it as a tool. So, I'm about to show you a picture, and I want you to keep in mind what your initial reaction, your initial emotion is to the picture that I'm about to show. It's a place that you've likely seen and probably been inside of before. Oh no. Yes. So, keep in mind what your reaction is. So, how did you feel when you saw this church? I'm sure there was some happiness from those of you who are firm in their faith and have a good relationship with the Lord, and maybe from those who enjoy the fellowship that they receive from their home church. Although I'm also certain that there was a little bit of discomfort rippling around the room when I showed this picture. First of all, when you walk into school, religion is the last thing that's thought about and talked about. Even legally, the practice of religion is forbidden within a public educational environment, as the Supreme Court upholds its Establishment Clause of the First Amendment. It condemns classroom prayers and scripture readings, even as they became optional and students were able to do them themselves if they wanted to. So of course, when I show an image of something that's taboo inside of the building we are now, you're going to feel a little bit uncomfortable. However, I'm also sure that the discomfort that I'm describing goes a little deeper than that. Maybe you've grown up in church your whole life and you're kind of waiting for the right opportunity to distance yourself from it. Maybe someone you know is overly religious, so much so to the point that that's all that they talk about. Maybe you've experienced shame because of religious teachings and the ways in which they don't align with your own practices. If any of the reasons I'm describing or reasons like it speak to you, the reason pertaining to your distrust towards a religious might not be what you think. So, how did a church, an establishment of life and love, one that's supposed to create people who are able to uphold only the highest of morals, turn into a place that deters people from walking through its doors? For purposes of this presentation, statements will be generalized towards traditional church settings. Churches that hold most conventional evangelical beliefs, such as the Trinity, the virgin birth of Jesus Christ, salvation through Christ's atoning death on the cross, repentance of sins, the second coming of Jesus, and resurrection and eternal joy in heaven. Also, churches as a whole that are conservative on matters such as morality and ethics, including endorsement of modest dress, healthy lifestyle, avoidance of premarital sexual intimacy, disengagement from some forms of contemporary entertainment, and restriction on homosexuality. So, in general, in layman's terms, your average Christianity and Catholicism is what I'll be delineating here. So, hundreds of thousands of people across the globe are involved in churches that practice upholding these standards. Let's break faith, or religion, or faith in this case, down into two types. The first of which is vertical faith. As the name implies, people with a sound vertical faith base their motives and actions primarily on their relationship with God, hence vertical faith. They use their faith for their own personal good because that's what they deem important in their lives. People demonstrating strong vertical faith likely attend weekly church services, pray often, and do their best to uplift others as God uplifts them. They put their faith in God, a loving God, and trust that He has a plan for them in their lives. A study published in the Journey of Psychology and Christianity delineates that those with a strong vertical faith are much more likely to use the guidelines of the church for good in order to make moral decisions, and in turn are able to focus on the positivity of the outcomes of their actions. However, the second category of faith, horizontal faith, is a little bit less encouraging. In the same Journal of Psychology and Christianity, horizontal faith is defined as relating to one's relationship with others, including behavioral manifestations of social service and justice. Now, this is important. Horizontal faith isn't inherently bad, as faith is dimensional, and so a possession of both horizontal and vertical faith is deemed necessary in the eyes of the religious. But it is when horizontal faith exists on its own is when things get a little bit tricky. Religion can manifest into an unhealthy practice if horizontal faith is presented by itself. In fact, a study conducted in 2005 by Salzman and Carlson noted that horizontal faith causes more psychological stress than does vertical faith. For those with horizontal faith, religion is largely concerned with other people. Decisions are no longer made with pure intentions, and they start to become a little bit selfish. They're doing what they believe will get them the approval of those around them, especially those that are within their own church. They may be willing to cut corners and kind of ignore their own moral standards in order to give them kind of more of a benefit in the eyes of those around them, and it gives them a little bit of a skewed perspective of what faith really is. So we see now more than ever a divide within our society, especially from generation to generation. I'm sure a few of you agree with your parents on everything, and some of you rarely agree with them at all. But whether you realize it or not, those traditional beliefs that you may disagree on stem from roots of religious upbringing. And unfortunately, instead of incorporating religion into our daily lives in a healthy way, it now seems as though it's been weaponized. So let me explain what that means. Being aware of your horizontal faith is difficult, and in fact, or your horizontal and vertical faith is difficult, and in fact, it's not even something I was aware of the difference between until right now, or working on this, hence me sharing this information with you. And we also see this lack of understanding in the different types of faith in older generations. You may see parents and families that will go to great lengths in order to bring their kids to church and make sure that they have a sound faith foundation, but behind closed doors, it's a little bit of a different story. This is a prime example of standalone horizontal faith. Religion has turned into a weapon formed against younger generations and almost like a fear tactic in order to keep kids in line. Yet on the surface, it just looks like a normal family that attends weekly church services. That goes right back to the validation seeking aspect of faith, and it moves away from that traditional God is love. So where God is love comes from, the verse 1 John 4:16 in the Bible, it says, "And so we know and rely on the love God has for us. God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God, and God in them." So whether or not you know the Bible, you're religious or non-religious, you can see that this verse quotes that God was never intended to be a scary God, a God to be feared or a vengeful one, and instead he was meant to be a loving God and worshipped as such. However, now religious practices can become shameful and burdensome if they're completed with an idea of an all-seeing God in mind. So we've really moved away from this traditional God is love. Relatively normal acts, such as moving in with someone before marriage, is frowned upon within most church environments and seen as dirty and shameful, even if it's personally and financially logical. Another financial dilemma within the church is tithing. So what tithing is, if you're unaware, it's donating your income to the church, and the Bible indicates that roughly 10% of your monthly income should go towards the church. This is a practice that is still upheld in modern denominations, my church included, but this pressures people into choosing either financial stability or pleasing the Lord. Now, what your personal decision is as to whether or not you tithe is between you, your family, and God, but as an offering basket goes around, usually that's how the tithing is collected. People are judged for how much money that they put in, and this pressures them into strengthening their horizontal faith to meet the approval of those around them. Other shameful situations, like simple things such as sexuality, how many tattoos you have, when you plan on having kids, if you plan on having them at all, or even what your diet consists of. These things have been manipulated into conforming to the church's standards, and those who follow them often turn religion into a weapon to harm those who don't. As well as causing shame, it can also give people an inflated sense of superiority if they're the others leading those to the Lord. These figures, such as pastors and priests and other clergymen, these people are elevated within the church and sometimes to kind of an unhealthy extent. So have you ever been walking on a sidewalk, been in a mall, or in any other public place and heard, "Can I pray for you?" Now, there's nothing wrong with people genuinely wanting to help others by sharing their faith and providing comfort, but often in situations like this, there's a little bit more than meets the eye. Here, there's an entitlement to approach strangers and imply that there's something wrong with them or in need of fixing. People that may show physical or mental illness and are more than likely confident and okay with who they are, they're walked up to and asked if they can be prayed for with the complete disregard of their own faith. This perpetuates the weaponizing religion and the shame of not having a faith of your own. As a society, we need to stop using religion as a weapon to harm others, and that's something that makes people feel as though they're guilty, that they made mistakes, or that God frowns upon them. We need to use religion to promote others and to keep a healthy relationship with those around us. Religion has to be a tool in order to build people up if it's to be used at all. So how do we as a society move away from using religion as a weapon? Well, the first step is to recognize how to healthily incorporate religion into your own lives if you choose to do so. Start with establishing a firm vertical faith, read up on theologies, create your own moral guidelines as to how you feel God is going to play into your daily life. Fellowship, pray, go to church, worship, whatever you deem is necessary, but don't let your beliefs invalidate who someone is or invalidate yourself. If you feel comfortable in the foundation that you've established for yourself, use that new intuition in order to discern what's going on around you and others around you. In a religious or a non-religious setting, you might start to recognize those with a little bit of a stronger horizontal faith than a healthy amount would be. Although you may worship the same God, read the same holy book, or pray the same prayers, your intentions are what will set you apart from those who won't follow the Lord for reasons of selfishness. Religion and faith can be beautiful things when they aren't used to hurt others. They should be able to spread love and hope, not hatred and sorrow. If you've been driven away from the church because of hypocrisy or because certain teaching has caused you to feel ashamed or embarrassed, I'm sorry to hear that. Some of you might know my father is a pastor, so I've grown up in church my whole life. And I've experienced both sides of what I'm describing here. I've had really powerful, really great religious experiences that have kind of made me want to turn my life around for the better, but I've also seen some unfortunate and saddening and shameful experiences within the church as well. So wherever you may stand within the church, or if you're not a part of it at all, I just want you to know that there's no right or wrong when it comes to personal opinion. However, when you let your opinion influence what you do or don't do merely for the approval of others, that's where it starts to become a little bit unhealthy. Don't use religion to hurt others, and don't let anyone else use it to hurt you. Find comfort, peace, and whatever else you may be looking for in it, but don't use it as a way to get the approval of those around you. You deserve to feel comfortable with yourself, comfortable with your own practices, even if you're unsure as to what those may be right now, or even if you're still finding yourself along the way. I'm not standing up here to tell you to go to church, and I'm not standing up here to tell you to run away from it. What I am saying is that you should do what feels right for you. I want to encourage you to do just that, do whatever that may be, as long as it doesn't put others down in the process. Everyone deserves to be able to find their way, and whatever that journey looks like is up to them and not for us to change. Thank you.